Bobby Bizup. Bobby Bizup was a deaf camper who was believed to have become lost and succumbed to the elements. It would later come out that 3 of the Catholic priests working at the camp he was at were known to have abused children. Then Bobby's skull showed up in the basement of the man who managed the camp. So what exactly happened to Bobby Bizup? In 1958, Camp St. Malo in Allens Park, Colorado was an idyllic place. Bobby was a great kid. He wore a hearing aid, but he had been nearly deaf since birth. He couldn't make out many of the sounds he heard around him, and he also had some trouble speaking. As a result, he used sign language and lip reading to communicate. This wasn't always easy for him. He would sometimes become easily upset and have trouble processing what was going on around him due to his hearing challenges, as he would panic. So it is possible that he panicked upon realizing he was lost. But he was doing well that day, and the 10-year-old boy was out fishing along the stream, carrying along a carton full of worms and his old fishing rod. A camp counselor named Terry Cohen let Bobby know that he needed to gather up his things and head back to the main lodge for dinner. He would later report that he pointed to his watch at 6 p.m. to remind Bobby it was nearly time for supper, and Bobby nodded that he understood and would return. However, an hour later, Bobby would still be unaccounted for. The camp started to search pretty quick in the surrounding woods. The camp at the time was operated by the Archdiocese, and it appeared that everyone was trying hard to search in hopes of finding Bobby's safe return. While any child going missing is a tragedy, it's also a risk that those exploring nature understandably take when dealing with the outdoors and unforgiving terrain. No one suspected anything other than a child who got lost, but knowing what we know now, in retrospect, gives the entire situation a sinister feel. One of the few facts not in question is that Bobby was found dead a year after disappearing from camp. One of the more troubling aspects is that Bobby's body was found a year later in a spot that was heavily searched the year before. If he was there the entire time, why was he not found then? There were over 500 people searching on the ground, as well as bloodhounds trying to track him. They also had air patrols. This has led some people to question whether or not the body was placed there at a later date. The history of abuse also adds another layer, as it's easy to imagine alternate scenarios where Bobby is a victim of a different kind. Jerry Rapola, for instance, was one of the 3 seminarians who were counselors at Camp St. Malo that summer who have since been accused of abusing children. He was accused of assaulting a teen when he was assigned to the Immaculate Heart of Mary Catholic Church in Grand Junction, Colorado. Neil Hewitt admitted to being one of the last to see Bobby. Hewitt would go on to leave the priesthood in 1980 and even got married. He also is believed to have molested at least 9 children in the 18 years he was in the priesthood. He has spoken to reporters a few times over the years, the last of which was in 2019, where he proclaimed that he did not do anything to Bobby. The most horrifying of the 3 counselors with a history of abuse is Reverend Harold Robert White. A Colorado Attorney General's report in 2019 called White the most prolific known clergy child abuser in Colorado history. He is believed to have abused at least 63 children who ranged in age from 9 to 18. Excerpts from White's personnel file show that the Archdiocese knew by December 13, 1961, that White was harming children. However, he opted to transfer him multiple times rather than address the behavior. So this begs the question, was Bobby's disappearance related to an accident, or was it related to abuse these men inflicted on other children? Perhaps one of the men were trying to abuse this child as they had others and something went wrong. Sadly, if this is the case, they got away with it. We can suspect, but there's really no way to prove anything happened at this late of a date. His cause of death at the time was ruled to be accidental, and no one suspected differently. That is, until Dr. Tom McCroskey turned Bobby's skull over to authorities, causing all of the other facts to come into question. The police have tried to trace the path of Bobby's skull. Dr. McCroskey told the police that at the time his father, Dr. Joseph McCroskey, was a prominent member of the Catholic Church. He was also very good friends with Father Richard Heister, who ran the camp at the time. It was Heister who gave the skull to McCroskey, although the reason why that happened is unknown. Father Heister's nephew admits that he knew about Bobby's skull, and he knew that his uncle had admitted that it belonged to the boy. For some reason, the nephew never reported this to anyone, however. He would later say that he had no idea why it was kept in their possession all this time, but they found its existence to be disturbing. He said there may have been a reason for keeping it, but he can't come up with one himself. The elder McCroskey died in 1980, and his son Tom inherited the skull at the time. It was simply laying around in a storage unit all of this time. Dr. McCroskey explained that his father told him it could be the skull of a boy who disappeared from camp, and over the years he tried to identify the boy, but to no avail. However, in December of 2020, the doctor accidentally came upon a documentary titled Mystery on Mount Meeker. It was at this time he contacted the authorities to say that he believed he was in possession of Bobby Bizarup's skull. While the DNA is still underway at this time, Bobby is the only child missing from camp. Joe and Connie Bizup buried Bobby's remains at Fort Logan National Cemetery. While it's unlikely at this date anyone will be identified as having hurt Bobby, after all, most of the possible perpetrators have already passed away. All the same, it's still a small comfort to know that his family may be able to finally put to rest the last of Bobby's remains. If Bobby had lived, he would be 73 today. Thank you for listening. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. Hug your loved ones. Life can change on a dime. Take care of yourselves and each other.